You have to promise not to freak out.
I won't freak out. I won't.
This is the blood eater. It eats blood and pukes the blood back onto people.
Okay.
That's always kind of been her thing, right? Drawing?
All kids like to draw.
Yeah, but has she always been so...
Dark?
We felt a phone call wouldn't convey the...
Blood?
I don't care what people think of me.
Oh, well, you should. No.
I found this place in the woods. We dropped Amber's notebook in it. And now I'm worried that Amber's drawings might be...
What are you talking about?
Amber drew that?
She's working through some stuff.
Trouble on my left, trouble on my right. I've been facing trouble almost all my life. My sweet love, won't you put me through? Everywhere I look, I
You're not an evil person just because you drew some evil pictures.
Every part of that was horrifying.
I know.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the speakers and not necessarily those of GEB America, Oral Roberts University, or their employees. This program is not intended to offer investment, financial, medical, legal, or any other advice. Viewers should consult a subject matter professional regarding any such matters.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the GEB America Podcast. I'm your host today, David Groves, and we are very pleased to welcome Steve Taylor all the way from Music City, telling us a little bit about this really cool new movie that is coming out from Angel Studios called Sketch that hits theaters on August 6th. Steve, welcome to the show.
David.
So let's, talk a little bit about the idea and the concept, because if we have the trailer in the show notes, and a lot of times we'll, with YouTube and that, we'll play the trailer before the program starts. You got this really kind of heartfelt story, but it's got a fantasy magic edge to it. Tell us a little bit about how you kind of came to be involved with this project and a little bit more about it.
Yes. So I got to go back to the first movie that I ever directed was The Second Chance with Michael W. Smith. And in that movie, we needed a big church sanctuary to record a key scene. And so the music pastor at that church, Brentwood Baptist, said okay because he loved Michael W. Smith. But since I owed him one, he said, hey, could you take a look at my son's short film reel? He's 19 years old, and he's a budding filmmaker. And I said, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. And it turned out it was really good. 19-year-old Seth Worley was a really good filmmaker. So I hired him to do second unit on Second Chance, and then on my next movie, Blue Like Jazz. And we did other collaborations. He would have me sometimes act in his short films, and I had him do a Kickstarter promo and some a music video. Anyway, he was working on this script. Man, it was like 8 years ago. And he sent me the first half of the script just to get my opinion. And I immediately thought it was fantastic. Gave him a minimal amount of notes. And then he moved out to California with his family to try to see if he could make a career as a film director, and got really close. He ended up meeting our lead actor in Sketch, Tony Hale, who is a fellow Christian. I think they actually met at church in Los Angeles. And cool. Tony got excited about it as well. And they came really close to getting it made in Hollywood with a studio, but just never quite got there. So Seth moved back to Nashville, pretty discouraged about 4 years ago with his family. And I got with him before I went to Taiwan to work on another movie and asked him what was up with Sketch. He said, it's dead. And I'm like, no, man, give me the script. Let me see what the latest version. So I read it in Taiwan. When I got back, I said, we can make this movie, but we got to be scrappy about it. We can make it in Nashville. We can use our friends to work on it. Tony's on board. Let's do this. And I'm terrible at raising money, but I ended up having a breakfast with John Irwin on another project that I was working on. And he said, what else are you doing? And I told him about this project. He said, can I see the script? And I gave it to him. And 48 hours later, he says, you got to let me give you the money for this. And so we said, okay. So we were making the movie just, 6 weeks later.
It's amazing. So tell everybody at home and listening, what is kind of the premise and why would they want to take their family to see the?
Yes. Well, it would be really good if you saw the trailer, because the trailer does a good job of describing the premise. But it's about a 10-year-old girl, Amber, and Tony Hale from Arrested Development and Veep fame plays her father. And we find out that her mother had died 6 months earlier, and she's clearly having issues and is just having a hard time. So Tony takes her to a counselor, and the counselor finds out that Amber likes to draw. So the counselor gives her a sketchbook and says, put all your feelings in this sketchbook, because her dad had told her that you can't control your outbox, but you can control your inbox. And so the counselor says, I love that. Take all your feelings and put them into this inbox, and they can't hurt anybody. So she goes to town and she starts drawing all these comically horrific monsters, because that's the stuff in her head, right? After all the stuff that she's been through. And then, of course, those monsters come to life and start terrorizing everybody. So we made it very much to be a family movie. It's PG rated. We kind of I'll call it a cross between Inside Out and Jurassic Park, which is a pretty good mix, except nobody gets eaten. And the only blood is, on her little drawings, not in real life. So it's a really funny movie. It's a thrill ride. It's a very emotional movie and an emotionally satisfying ending. And you don't have to take my word for it, because it actually screened for the first time. It premiered at the Toronto Film Festival, which is one of the big 5 film festivals in the world. Got an incredible response. And if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, it's actually a 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I think the last time that happened for a live-action family movie was Paddington 2. And if you didn't like Paddington 2, you either never saw it or you have no heart.
It's true. I have a 5 and 7-year-old, and they love Paddington.
It's a good one.
They're going to love Sketch. I really do think so. So obviously, one of the topics that kind of comes up, and people that listen to our show have heard us talk about this with other Angel Studios execs and directors, is this concept of, if you want great theater, you want great movies that are aimed at wholesome family fun, you've got to go and support them. Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's all about the money. Can't make stuff without money, can't do it for free. So talk a little bit about the idea of supporting projects like this and kind of what you're kind of hoping for from the film.
One of the things I love about Angel, and they have been such great partners, they're really inventive. They're just willing to try anything to get the word out. And of course, the Angel Guild has been really supportive of this movie as well. They want to be what Disney used to be. And they want to make movies for the whole family, not just for kids or not just for adults. And they felt like this one was the one that they could really go all in on, because it's kind of got everything. It's just a great movie for the whole family. They're releasing it internationally in theaters, which almost never happens. I was in Barcelona a couple weeks ago presenting it to European distributors who typically don't like anything, and they loved the movie and applauded at the end and told me how much they loved it. So yes, we hope people will show up on August 6th, opening day, because a lot's riding on it. If it succeeds, it'll be the first live action movie not based on existing IP that's been successful in a very long time, but this is a good one to support.
So you talked a little bit a minute ago about your earlier works, directing. How was things a little different with this? Because you're playing more of a producer. You're out there promoting, like you talked about, going to these film festivals. How has that been different for you?
Yes, I tell people producing film is like filmmaking minus all the fun parts. So I'm having to, deal with distributors and deal with agents and try to make sure we come in on budget, and having a lot of difficult discussions with people, with telling them, yeah, we can do this, but we can't do that because we're limited. One of the amazing things about this movie is it just looks like a big budget movie. It's made for the big screen. We went the extra mile and mixed it in Dolby Atmos and mastered it in Dolby Cinema. So it's just a movie that is made for the big screen. I think probably more than anything else anything that Angel's ever done before. It's a big screen movie.
Well, it does look amazing. And as I mentioned a minute ago, the link to the trailer is in the show notes. And I want to encourage those of you listening and watching to go check out the Angel Guild, because what's really cool is if you're a member of the Angel Guild, I believe it's as a premium person, you get 2 free tickets to every theatrical release. So you get notified, hey, here's 2 tickets to go see Sketch as part of your monthly subscription. So definitely go look at that. Show notes, again, the details are there. I mentioned this before we started recording, is I would be doing a great disservice to my Gen X brothers and sisters out there if we didn't talk a little bit about the early days of music. One of my friends who's a production manager here at the studio said, ask Steve, what's it feel like to know you're one of the people that shaped early Christian music? So without a doubt, as a teenager, I remember late at night watching, I think it was light music out of Pittsburgh when I lived in Ohio.
I remember that.
And I would see videos, and every once in a while there'd be a video from something that one of your songs, and I remember just being like, wow, this is interesting. I like it. And then I had several of the albums. So talk a little bit about where the Lord has brought you from those early days of just, as you said earlier, scrappy. You were kind of a scrappy guy, just eking that out and creating great music, and then kind of where that's brought you to.
Yes, well, I was actually studying music as a major and filmmaking as a kind of an unofficial minor at Colorado University in Boulder while I was a youth pastor. And so it was a pretty big switch between being a youth pastor and going to, at the time, probably the most liberal campus in America. And so that really shaped the way I could tell at the time, the kids in my youth group really responded to music. And so I wanted to make music that would appeal to them, but that had something to say, but that didn't feel too insulting to their intelligence or feel too much like, a sermon. And so, I became a recording artist. I thought it would probably be better to be a recording artist in my 20s and a filmmaker in my 50s than the reverse. But I always wanted to get into film more, so I was able to do music videos for my own projects, and then eventually did them for other projects and albums that I produced and bands that I worked with, and then finally made the switch in the early part of this century.
So what do you like most about kind of the direction of today's modern storytelling? Because we have students here at the university, and they've got all this editing right on their laptop, and they can shoot and do so many things. I mean, my son has a camera. I'm like, I wish I'd had that camera 25 years ago. What could I have done with that? But what excites you about kind of like today's storytelling, not just techniques, but also kind of the direction of things?
Well, that's one of the exciting things about working with Seth Worley, the writer-director, is because he kind of defines for me what the next generation of filmmakers can do. He's a great camera person. He's a great writer. He's a great director. He's excellent with special effects. He can do sound. And he had to do all of those by necessity because he just didn't have any money. But he was also started at a time when a lot of those tools became accessible. Whereas, 30 or 40 years ago, it was really expensive to buy film and shoot film. And so it's become much more democratized. And Seth has actually quite a following in kind of the no film school community. Everybody knows about Seth Worley, mostly due to his fantastic short films that he'd made. And in fact, for Sketch, he had even made a proof of concept that he funded with Kickstarter probably 4 or 5 years ago that just 15 minutes that just showed that he could pull this off. So when we finally were able to get this made, I had great confidence in him because he'd already done it all.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was going to ask you about, tell us a little bit about the recent project you did with Russ Taff. So
Yes.
we were so blessed to have Russ on. I think I communicated with your people back a few months ago, and I had gone on Kickstarter, and I was like, oh, I love Russ. I love he's doing this cover album. And so we were able to get him on, which was fun.
Yes.
Because Russ has just got so many stories. He talked about the early days and the Toto musicians and all this just really fun stuff from when the early days in the 80s out in California recording. But what was it like working with him, and kind of how did that come together?
Man, he's just one of my favorite people. I got to know him back in the day. We did a couple of shows together. He used to let me stay he and his wife, Tori, let me stay at their house when they were out of town on tour, and I was recording in Nashville. He's just a really great guy. And he's been very open about his struggles with sobriety and has come out the other side. and his story is really inspiring. What happened, you were mentioning the band that brought me to Nashville, Chagall Guevara, which was a rock band that I was the front man in, and we got signed to a major label at the time, and we reformed 30 years later to do a concert at the Ryman Auditorium. And at the after party, we invited Russ along with some other people to come and join at a jam, and he sounded so good. I hadn't heard him sing in a long time, and I just kind of assumed that his best days were behind him. And he was just so soulful, and it just inspired us. And at the end of that, we were all thinking, he needs to do an album like what Johnny Cash did with Rick Rubin late in life. And so that's where we came up with the idea for a cover story. And longtime friend and collaborator John Mark Painter had grown up listening to Russ and knew all his albums frontward and backwards, and actually went to the same church that Russ went to. And so we heard him sing in church a bunch. And so he was the producer. I kind of was the executive producer, just kind of overseeing it all. But we loved the way that album turned out. And I hope people get to see Russ in concert because he's still got it.
Yeah, he sure does. And we had the pleasure. He was in Arkansas visiting friends and family. So he got to tell some of those stories of his childhood and kind of how the discovery kind of happened in those early years with the Imperials. So I had to definitely bring that up because he had a lot of great things to say about you and John, and just a really genuine, humble guy.
Yes.
You know, he's like talking about this and that, and he's like, "Oh, hey, you won a Grammy," you know, and then he explains how it like caused him to like doubt himself. And so I encourage everybody to go back and listen to the podcast with Russ Taff. But so Steve, I want to ask you about like, what's on the horizon, like the Beyond sketch. We want to encourage people to go see it, support the great family movies, take kids from the neighborhood. But what's kind of on your heart, or you feel like is that kind of another great thing you want to do?
Yes. So your audience will be familiar with VeggieTales, and the co-creator of VeggieTales, Mike Naraki, is also the voice of Larry the Cucumber and wrote almost all those silly songs. He's a longtime friend, and he came to me with his new project to see if I would be interested in producing it. It's about a 10-year-old boy whose dad is an archaeologist, and they're doing a dig at the Dead Sea. But the kid, Michael is his name, gets bored and he wanders into a nearby cave. And there he finds 2 dead, salt-encrusted squirrels that he thinks are cool. So he smuggles them home in his backpack back to Nashville, puts them in his bedroom window with the window open to air out. It rains that night. The squirrels get wet. They reanimate. Now you've got 2 squirrels who are alive during Jesus' time, and hijinks ensue. And, of course, it's called the Dead Sea Squirrels. And
Perfect.
We finished 13 episodes the first season, and it's actually streaming right now on Minnow TV, which is a kids platform for Christian kids, and it's their #1 show. And we're already working on the second season, but I gotta say, it's really good. It's really funny. Every episode has a flashback to Bible times, and so we've got Matthew West as the singing Jesus, and Ellie Holcomb as the singing Mary, and Mac Powell is the singing of John the Baptist. I'm the singing Apostle Paul, because typecasting, and it's got really good songs, and it's genuinely funny. The writer-director of Sketch actually is one of the writers on Dead Sea Scrolls as well, so I hope people check it out.
I love it. Well, in the show notes, for those of you listening, some of you I know commute, be sure when you get a chance, go back through and check it out. The info, I'll put the link in there as well to the Minnow platform so you can share that with your kids and your grandkids, because I know we got a lot of grandparents that listen.
Yes.
Steve, the last thing I want to ask you about Sketch, and this was something we were talking about in kind of pre-production for this earlier before we came on with my team, is talk a little bit about how the casting came together.
Yes.
Because Tony, obviously, hilarious guy, very recognizable. But how did that come together? I know you mentioned he was interested in doing it, but as far as the other people that were involved.
Right. So we have a really fantastic casting director, Jessica Sherman, and she's particularly good with kids, and she found 3 kids that just nail it. It's hard to get good kids. A lot of child actors, they're kind of on all the time, and they don't necessarily always seem very real. These kids, you feel it the way they feel it. And the other thing about casting kids is you're also casting their parents, because at least one parent is going to be with them all the time. And we had great parents as well. The kids really formed a bond. The crew was great. We made it a really family-friendly, fun place for the kids. And they still hang out together. It's been 3 years now, so they're getting older, but they still love hanging out together. And I can't wait to see them at our LA premiere coming up.
Well, I'm sure that they, along with the rest of you, are excited to finally kind of see this day.
Yes.
With August 6th. And I think what's really great is that you talk about the international release. I know we have a lot of people that listen to the podcast in other countries. What is kind of the plan there? Are there any particular cities where it's going to premiere and that's
It's a very rare movie in that it's going to be released theatrically in most of the world. And so we're very excited about that. Of course, it's getting dubbed in a lot of different languages. I was just in Barcelona to present it to European theatrical distributors. They typically don't like anything and they really liked Sketch. So we're hopeful that it's going to catch on internationally. You know, a lot of more faith-based movies don't necessarily translate that well internationally, but Angel is really excited about this one. They think this movie can have legs, as we say, around the globe.
Well, we're excited for you guys, and we're excited to see it and to support it. Couple quick questions for you before you go. We always like to do this. We call it rapid fire. It's kind of a get to know you a little bit. So when Steve Taylor is hanging, not working hard, he's hanging with the family. What's your favorite comfort food?
Oh, probably macaroni and cheese.
Wow, that's the first mac and cheese I think we've ever gotten.
Really? I would have thought that was everybody's pick. What's
No.
more comforting than macaroni and cheese?
We get a lot of We get a lot of mashed potatoes.
No,
we get some. We had somebody recently tell us sushi. You know, I was like,
wow, that's
okay.
I don't call that.
I wouldn't call that comfort, but if it, it does the trick.
Whatever, it works.
So, because we do this with the musicians, what would you consider a couple of your top musical influences?
Oh, man, the one I usually mention was a punk rock band out of England in the late 70s and early 80s called The Clash. It's kind of like my music. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then I heard The Clash, and it's like, okay, there it is. So that was a big one. You know, David Bowie was a big one. I love Christian artists like Rich Mullins was a friend, and I got to work with him, and he's really great. Jewish artist David Guerra, I just think is fantastic. And I'm always listening to something. And one of my favorite bands, The National, Russ Taff actually covered one of their songs in his latest album, which I think is he just looked at as a really powerful song about what addiction can do to you. Yeah, I'm always listening to music.
I got to tell you, I think the Ordinary World cover by Duran Duran was probably my favorite.
I'm with you.
I don't know. I was a big Duran Duran kind of fan and their early stuff, and before they got real big on the radio. Isn't that how it is with a lot of bands? You're like, I liked you before you got huge. But right. He did a great job with that one.
Yeah, I love that song.
We appreciate you coming on. I know you've had a busy day, kind of like one after another, these press junkets, but we appreciate you coming on.
It's been a blast. David, thank you for doing it.
Yeah. Well, we're excited about the project, and we love doing stuff and partnering with Angel Studios for these kind of interviews, and we're looking forward to hear really great things about the August release, and we want to thank you. Next time you have something like this working on, let's talk more about it and have you back.
Got it. All right.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody that joined us, we appreciate you. Share and follow, and be sure you hit the bell on YouTube, and we'll see you next time on the GEB America Podcast.